For 300 years, humanity had been the quiet neighbor of the galaxy. When humans first left their small corner of space and met the other species, everyone expected them to act like all young civilizations. They expected humans to be aggressive. They expected them to make demands. They expected them to show off their weapons. But humanity did none of these things. Ambassador. Elena Vasquez stood before the great assembly of the Concordat of Voices. This was the council where all the powerful species of the galaxy met to make decisions. She did not demand anything. She did not threaten anyone. She simply talked about trade and friendship and respect. The alien species did not know what to think. The Kethvari were insect-like creatures with hard shells and clicking mouths. They made confused sounds when they heard her speak. The Vorin were massive beings with thick, armor-like skin. They rumbled with what sounded like laughter. The singers of Mishal were beautiful crystalline beings who communicated through musical tones. They chimed in a way that clearly meant they did not believe what they were hearing. "Hi, speaker." Fulvex of the Dominion stood up. He was a reptilian creature with scales that shifted colors with his emotions. Right now, they showed contempt. "They are weak," he declared to the assembly. "They hide behind words because they have nothing else." But the humans just smiled. They signed every agreement that was put in front of them. They asked for nothing except fair trade. Then they went back to their corner of space and built their quiet civilization. The galaxy stopped thinking about them as a threat. In fact, the galaxy stopped thinking about them at all. Many generations passed. The children and grandchildren of those first alien leaders grew up hearing stories about the soft humans who never fought back. Some of the younger species started to see humans as easy targets. The Trekkie Consortium began charging unfair taxes on human trading ships. Human merchants paid without complaint. The Varen claimed that 3 human colony worlds actually belonged to them because of ancient history. The humans relocated their people to other worlds without argument. The Dominion blocked human trade routes and said it was for security reasons. The humans found different routes. And through all of this, humanity kept negotiating. They kept smiling. They kept signing agreements. They kept paying unfair prices and accepting unfair treatment. Ambassador Chenwei was the great-great-granddaughter of Elena Vasquez. She now stood in the same assembly hall where her ancestor had first spoken. The room looked the same. The alien species looked the same. But the attitude toward humans had changed completely. "We ask only that the treaties be honored," Chenwei said. Her voice was calm and steady. High Speaker Rakthal now led the Dominion. He was a descendant of Thulvex, and he had inherited his ancestors' contempt for humanity. He laughed at Chenwei. It was an ugly sound, like stones grinding together. "Your treaties mean nothing," he said. "They are just words on old documents. You have no way to make us follow them." Chenwei's face did not change expression. We had hoped it would not come to enforcement. No one in the assembly noticed the small change in her voice. No one saw her assistant quietly leave the room. They were all too busy laughing at the weak humans who thought they could talk about enforcement. 3 days later, everything changed. The Dominion's 7th Fleet was one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. 300 warships armed with the most advanced weapons. They received orders from High Speaker Rakthal himself. Their target was a human colony world called New Geneva. The attack came without warning. The colony had no military defenses. It was a peaceful world of families and farmers and scientists. 43 million people lived there. The Dominion fleet destroyed everything. They burned the cities. They poisoned the water. They made sure nothing survived. When they finished, New Geneva was a dead world. Rakthal expected the humans to cry. He expected them to beg. Maybe they would declare war, and then the Dominion could finish them off completely. That would show the galaxy what happened too weak. Species who thought they could negotiate with their betters. But the humans did something no one expected. They went silent. Every human ambassador in Concordat space left their post. Every human trader packed up and departed. Every human citizen simply vanished from alien worlds. They did not argue. They did not threaten. They did not say a single word. Human communication channels went dark. Their border stations powered down. Their world stopped answering calls from anyone. For 3 weeks, the galaxy waited. Some species thought the humans were hiding in fear. Some thought they were planning a desperate and futile attack. Some thought maybe they had simply given up and were waiting to die. Hi, Speaker Rakthal laughed about it at diplomatic gatherings. The humans are so weak they cannot even respond to an attack, he boasted. They just run away and hide like prey animals. The other species laughed along with him. But some of the older and wiser beings felt uneasy. The singers of Mishal had been watching civilizations rise and fall for 12 million years. They noticed something that no one else did. The humans were not acting like a defeated species. They were not panicking. They were not making desperate moves. Their withdrawal had been too organized, to calm, to complete. It was almost like they had planned for this on the 22nd day of silence. Every screen in Concordat space lit up with the same image. A human woman in a military uniform stood on the bridge of a warship. Behind her, through the viewing windows, more ships were visible. Many more ships. The woman had a calm face and steady eyes. She did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She looked like someone who had made a very difficult decision and was now at peace with it. "This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United Earth Defense Force," she said. Her voice was translated into every language simultaneously. "For 300 years, humanity chose peace. We chose it again and again, even when it cost us. Even when you called us weak. Even when you took from us because you thought you could." She paused to let her words sink in. "We are still not a species that believes in revenge. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We do not want your fear, though you will learn it." Behind her, more ships emerged from what looked like empty space. They kept coming. Hundreds of them. Ships that should not exist. Ships that no one had ever seen before. "What we want is simple. We want you to understand something important. Peace was never weakness. It was a choice. We chose it because we believed it was the right path. We hoped you would eventually see its value." Admiral Tanaka's eyes hardened. "Did not. The Dominion killed 43 million of our people on New Geneva. Innocent people, families, children. They died because you thought we could not stop you." The fleet behind her was now fully visible. 217 warships, each one massive and bristling with weapons. "You were wrong." The transmission ended across the Concordat. Military leaders scrambled to find information about human capabilities. They searched their databases for records of human weapons tests and fleet compositions. They found nothing useful. Everything they had recorded about humanity for 300 years had been carefully managed lies. The galaxy had spent 3 centuries laughing at humans. Now the galaxy was about to learn why that had been a terrible mistake. "Admiral Yuki?" Tanaka stood on the bridge of her flagship. The ship was called the Prometheus Rising, and it was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. Around her, officers worked at their stations with quiet focus. No one was nervous. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. For 300 years, humanity had been peaceful. That was true. But humanity had also been very, very busy. Every unfair tax the aliens charged had given humans money to fund secret research. Every time humans gave up territory, they gained time to prepare. Every insult they smiled through was recorded and studied. While the galaxy saw weakness, humanity was building something the Concordat could not imagine. Commander Singh approached the Admiral with a report. "The veil is lifting in all sectors," he said. "All ships report ready." The veil was humanity's greatest secret. It was a network of special satellites that hid entire star systems from alien sensors. For 3 centuries, the galaxy thought they knew where all human worlds were. They were wrong. Behind the veil, humans had built hidden colonies, secret shipyards, and research stations where their best minds worked on technologies that would shock the Kant looked at the display showing her fleet. 217 ships of war. Each one had been designed using everything humans had learned from watching alien species. Human engineers had studied Kethvari engines and made them faster. They had examined Varan armor and made it stronger. They had analyzed every weapon the Concordat used and found ways to make something better, all while smiling and signing treaties. All while being called weak. Intelligence Officer Park stepped forward with a data pad. Her face was serious. The final count from New Geneva is confirmed, Admiral. 43,217,412. Tanaka closed her eyes for a moment. Every name was already stored in the ship's memorial database. Every face had been recorded. She had read through thousands of the files herself. A teacher who loved gardening. A father who coached youth sports. A grandmother who baked bread every Sunday. Children who had never hurt anyone, all gone. Because the Dominion thought humans would not fight back, this was not going to be about revenge. Humans did not believe in revenge. Revenge was emotional and sloppy and led to cycles of violence that never ended. This was going to be about consequences. Open a channel, Tanaka ordered. Every frequency, every language. I want every species in the Concordat to hear what I have to say. Her image appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. Aliens who had spent generations mocking human weakness now saw something new. This was not a scared human. This was not an angry human. This was a human with absolutely nothing left to lose and absolutely everything needed to back up her words. I have already introduced myself. Now let me tell you what is going to happen. She stepped forward, and her fleet spread out behind her like wings. We are going to destroy the Dominion's 7th fleet, the fleet that killed our people on New Geneva. We are going to do this not because we enjoy violence, but because actions must have consequences. For 300 years you have taken from us, and we have let you, hoping you would learn. You did not learn. So now we will teach. She paused. After that, we will not destroy the Dominion. We will not burn their worlds or kill their civilians. That would make us like you, and we have no interest in becoming what we oppose. Across the galaxy, alien leaders leaned forward, confused. If the humans were not going to conquer, what did they want? What we want is justice. Real justice. The beings who ordered the attack on New Geneva will face trial. Not human trial. We do not trust ourselves to be fair. The singers of Mashal have agreed to judge them. Their telepathic abilities will show the truth. Their crystal memories will record everything forever. A list appeared on screens throughout Concordat space. Names and titles and positions. Officers who had commanded the fleet. Politicians who had approved the attack. Advisors who had helped plan it. At the very top was one name, High Speaker Rakthal. These individuals have one standard week to surrender themselves for trial. If they do not, we will come and collect them. And High Speaker Rakthal should know that his name is at the top of our list. The transmission ended. Rakthal watched from his throne room. His scales flickering through colors of fear he did not want his advisors to see. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. Prey ran. Prey hid. Prey did not make demands of predators. Find out everything about their fleet, he ordered. Now his military advisors scattered to obey. They searched every database. They contacted every spy. They pulled up every piece of intelligence gathered over 3 centuries. They found nothing. Everything they thought they knew about human military capability was fake. False fleet numbers. Fake weapon specifications. Technology levels that suggested humans could barely fly between stars. All of it had been carefully created lies, fed to alien intelligence services by humans who smiled politely and seemed so harmless. How is this possible? Rakthal demanded. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, the Dominion's 7th Fleet received orders to intercept the human ships. 300 Dominion warships, the finest in their military, moved to engage 217 human vessels. The admirals of the 7th Fleet were confident. They outnumbered the humans. They had more experience. They had bigger ships and more guns. This would be a quick victory that would prove once and for all that humans were nothing to fear. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, every single Dominion ship had been destroyed. Not damaged. Not captured. Destroyed completely. 300 warships and their crews. Gone in less time than it takes to eat a meal. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. The other species of the Concordat watched the battle recordings with growing horror. The human weapons had cut through Dominion shields like they were not even there. Human ships had moved in ways that should have been impossible. The tactical coordination was flawless. Every shot hit its target. Every maneuver was perfect. And when it was over, Admiral Tanaka sent another message. The Dominion's 7th Fleet has answered for New Geneva. 43 million deaths have been balanced against their destruction. But we are not finished. We do not want more death. We want the guilty to face justice. High Speaker Rakthal has 6 days remaining to surrender. She paused, and something like sadness crossed her face. We did not want this. We never wanted this. For 300 years, we chose peace because we believed it was the better path. We still believe that. But peace without strength is just submission, and strength without justice is just cruelty. We will be neither submissive nor cruel. The transmission ended. Across the Concordat, the galaxy began to truly understand something terrible. The humans had never been weak. They had been waiting. Hi. Speaker Rakthal sat in his throne room and stared at nothing. His scales had gone pale, and his advisors kept their distance. They had never seen him like this. They had never seen anyone like this. The 7th Fleet was gone. Not defeated in a close battle. Not forced to retreat. Gone. Completely destroyed in 11 minutes. 300 of the finest warships in the Dominion, crewed by thousands of trained soldiers, turned into floating debris by a smaller human fleet that did not even lose a single ship. How is this possible? Rakthal whispered. They are prey. They have always been prey. Prey does not do this. No one answered him. The advisors who had assured him that humans were harmless were either hiding or had already fled the planet. The military experts who had promised an easy victory were silent with shame. Everyone who had built careers on the idea that humans were weak was suddenly very quiet, but the worst part was not the defeat. The worst part was that the human fleet was not advancing. Admiral Tanaka had stopped her ships after destroying the 7th Fleet. She was not racing toward the Dominion homeworld to burn it like Rakthal would have done. She was not even demanding surrender. She was just waiting. Waiting for what? Her next message explained everything. Oh. Hi, Speaker Rakthal. Your fleet attacked a civilian world. 43 million dead. By any fair measure of justice, the Dominion should burn for this. Your cities should become tombs. Your species should become a warning to others. Rakthal felt his heart's pounding. But humanity does not want extinction. We have never wanted that. What we want is harder than destruction. What we want is accountability. A list of names appeared on screens across Dominion space. Officers, politicians, advisors, military commanders, business leaders who had funded the fleet. Every person who had helped plan, approve, or carry out the attack on New Geneva. These individuals will face trial. Not human justice. We do not trust ourselves to be fair after what you did. The singers of Mashal have agreed to judge. Their telepathic powers will reveal the truth. Their crystal memories will record everything forever, so no one can ever deny what happened. Tanaka's voice was steady, but heavy. You have 1 standard week to deliver every name on this list. After that, we stop asking. And High Speaker, your name is at the top. The message ended. What followed was chaos. Citizens who had celebrated the destruction of New Geneva suddenly wanted nothing to do with anyone connected to it. Military officers began disappearing from their posts. Some ran to hide. Others were silenced by their superiors who did not want them talking. Rakthal's own council began to fracture as advisors, calculated their chances of survival. But the biggest shock came from the rest of the Conord. The Cath Fairy, Cath Queen, issued a formal statement. Her species had existed for millions of years and had seen many civilizations rise and fall. Her words carried weight. Humanity's restraint in the face of genocide shows why they were always the superior civilization. The Kethvari will honor all existing treaties with humanity. We recommend others do the same. Immediately. The Varan, who had claimed human colony worlds as their own territory, withdrew every claim. No negotiation. No demands. They simply gave everything back and apologized. The Threki Consortium calculated how much they had unfairly taxed human. Merchants over 3 centuries, they returned every credit plus interest, along with a message that translators identified as desperate begging for forgiveness. But it was the singers of Mashal who truly changed everything. These crystalline beings were ancient beyond measure. They had watched the galaxy for 12 million years. They had seen species evolve, expand, and destroy themselves in endless cycles. Every civilization they encountered eventually chose conquest. Everyone eventually fell. The lead singer requested a meeting with Ambassador Chen Wei. When they met, the crystalline being's harmonics carried something that sounded like wonder. "Your species interests us greatly," the singer chimed. "In 12 million years of observation, we've seen 743 species achieve the ability to travel between stars. All of them eventually chose conquest. All of them eventually fell to the same pattern of expansion, conflict, and collapse. The harmonics shifted to something softer. Humanity is the first species we have ever encountered that chose peace when it was fully capable of war. The first to build weapons it hoped to never use. The first to answer genocide with justice instead of more genocide." Ambassador Chen Wei remained silent, unsure how to respond. "We have waited 12 million years to meet a species like yours. We will ensure your justice is perfect. The guilty from the Dominion will answer for New Geneva. And the galaxy will learn what your people have always known."
"What is that?"
Chen Wei asked. The singer's crystalline form pulsed with light. "Peace is not the absence of strength. Peace is what strength looks like when it is used wisely. The Dominion saw your gentleness and thought you were weak. They were fools. Gentleness that comes from weakness is meaningless. Gentleness that comes from those who could destroy you but choose not to is the rarest and most precious thing in the universe." The singer paused. "The trial will begin in 3 days. We recommend that all species of the Concordat attend. They need to see what real justice looks like. Most of them have forgotten." News of the singer's words spread across the galaxy. Species who had spent centuries looking down on humanity began to reconsider. The humans had been capable of conquest all along. They had simply chosen not to conquer. They had endured insults and theft and unfair treatment for 300 years. Not because they could not fight back, but because they believed fighting was wrong. And when they finally did fight, they stopped the moment justice became possible. High Speaker Rakthal had 5 days left to surrender. His advisors urged him to run. His generals suggested a final, desperate battle. His priests recommended suicide to preserve his honor. But Rakthal looked at the list of names and realized something terrible. If he ran, the humans would find him. Their patience over 3 centuries proved they would wait as long as necessary. If he fought, he would lose just like the 7th Fleet, and if he died, he would escape the consequences of what he had done. The humans did not want him to escape. They wanted him to face every single thing he had done that he realized was far more frightening than death. The trials began on Mishal Prime, the homeworld of the singers. Every screen across the Concordat showed what was happening. Billions of beings from hundreds of species watched as the guilty faced a judgment. High Speaker Rakthal stood before the crystalline judges. His scales were dull and lifeless. Around him stood 47 other Dominion officials and officers. These were the beings who had planned the attack on New Geneva. These were the ones who had given the orders. These were the ones who had celebrated when 43 million humans died. Now they would answer for it. The singer's telepathic abilities made lying impossible. They could reach into the minds of the accused and pull out memories. Every defendant was forced to show the court exactly what they had thought and felt and done. Their own minds served as evidence against them, but the humans watching had not expected what happened next. They wept. Admiral Tanaka sat in the observation gallery with Commander Singh beside her. Tears ran down both their faces as they watched. Other human observers throughout the courtroom were crying too. The Dominion commanders were experiencing something they had never felt before. The singers made them relive the attack on New Geneva through their own memories. But this time, they felt everything their victims had felt. Terror, confusion, the screams of children who did not understand why the sky was on fire. The desperate last messages from parents trying to protect families they could not save. The final moments of 43 million people who had never done anything wrong. The guilty felt every single death they had caused. One Dominion admiral collapsed to the floor, writhing and screaming. A politician who had voted for the attack began begging for it to stop. A military commander who had boasted about the destruction now sobbed uncontrollably as he experienced what his orders had actually meant. "This is cruel," Commander Singh murmured. "Even for them," no, Admiral Tanaka replied, wiping her eyes. "This is consequence. For 300 years they saw us as numbers, statistics, prey to be eliminated. Now they have to understand that every one of those 43 million was a real person with thoughts and feelings and people who loved them." She watched as Rakthal trembled before the singers, his mind forced to experience death after death after death. "The galaxy will call us monsters for this," Singh said. No, Tanaka said quietly. "They will call us human. And for the first time, they will understand what that actually means." She was right. The galaxy had expected humans to enjoy watching their enemies suffer. Instead, they saw human diplomats quietly helping the families of the accused, explaining what was happening, offering comfort to beings whose relatives had committed terrible crimes. They saw human doctors treating the psychological damage that the telepathic experience caused. They saw human philosophers engaging with scholars from other species, discussing justice and responsibility and the possibility of forgiveness. Ambassador Chen Wei addressed the High Assembly while the trials continued. "This is not revenge," she explained. "Revenge would be easy. Revenge would feel powerful in the moment. Revenge would let us pretend we were doing something strong. But revenge is just more violence, and violence only creates more violence." She gestured toward the trial proceedings visible on screens around the room. "This is different. This is justice. Real justice is not about hurting people who hurt you. Real justice is about truth. It is about making sure everyone understands exactly what happened and why it was wrong. It is about creating consequences that actually mean something." A Varan delegate raised a tentacle. "But you are making them suffer. How is that different from revenge?" Chen Wei considered the question carefully. "When you seek revenge, you want the other person to feel pain because their pain makes you feel better. When you seek justice, you want the other person to understand what they did wrong so they never do it again." The singers are not torturing the accused. They are educating them. For the first time in their lives, these beings truly understand the weight of their actions. She paused. "And that understanding is the only thing that can prevent this from happening again. If we simply killed them, we would create martyrs. If we imprisoned them normally, they would learn nothing. But now they know. They know exactly what they did. They will live with that knowledge forever. And every young Dominion citizen who watches these trials will learn the same lesson." The trials lasted for many weeks. Each defendant faced the full weight of their crimes. Each one was forced to experience the deaths they had caused. Each one emerged from the experience changed forever. High Speaker Rakthal was found guilty of genocide. His sentence was life imprisonment in a special facility, where the singers would ensure he spent every remaining day connected to the Memorial Archive of New Geneva. He would feel the weight of 43 million deaths until his last breath. He begged for execution instead. He said death would be a mercy. The humans refused. "Death is easy," Ambassador Chen Wei told him. "Living with what you have done is the human way. We do not kill people to make ourselves feel better. We do not let people escape their responsibilities through convenient death. You will live. You will remember. And perhaps in time you will understand why that matters." As the trials concluded, something strange and wonderful began to happen. Other species started requesting human help with their own conflicts. The Kethvari and Varan had been fighting for thousands of years. They asked humanity to help them make peace. The Threki Consortium had internal problems that destabilized entire sectors. They asked for human guidance. "We do not want your weapons," the Kethvari Hive Queen admitted during a diplomatic meeting. "We want your wisdom. You are the only species we have ever encountered that looked at power and asked not, 'What can we take?' but 'What should we do?' Teach us how to think like that." Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had become something far more important. They had become its conscience. 20 years had passed since the destruction of New Geneva. Ambassador Chenwei stood on the surface of the dead world. The planet had been left exactly as the Dominion fleet had made it. Ruined cities stretched to the horizon. Empty streets ran between buildings that would never hold life again. Crystal monuments rose from the ground, each one containing the names and faces of those who had died. 43 million monuments. One for every person lost. High Singer crystalline voice stood beside Chenwei. The ancient being's light pulsed gently as they looked out at the memorial together. "Your species still confuses us," the singer chimed. "You had every right to destroy the Dominion completely. You had the power. You had the moral authority. Every species in the Concordat would have supported you. Yet you chose this path instead." Chenwei looked at the ruins for a long moment before answering. "May I tell you something my great-great-grandmother wrote?" The singer's harmonics indicated interest. Alina Vasquez kept a private journal that was not discovered until after her death. In it, she wrote about the day humanity first made contact with the Concordat. She said she looked at the galaxy and saw what we could become if we followed the same path as every species before us. Conquerors, empire builders, and eventually, dust. Chenwei turned to face the crystalline being. She wrote something that has guided human policy ever since. She said the galaxy fears strength because strength has only ever meant destruction. But what if we showed them another way? What if we were strong enough to be gentle, patient enough to be kind? And if they never understood, if they pushed us until we had no choice but to fight? What if even then we fought for something better than just winning? The singer processed this in thoughtful silence. "You asked what humanity's answer was after peace collapsed," Chenwei continued. "The galaxy expected war and revenge and destruction. Those would have been easy answers, satisfying answers. They would have felt powerful and right in the moment." She gestured at the memorial around them. "But those answers would have proven that we were no different from anyone else. So instead, we answered with this: justice, accountability, and the hardest thing of all, the possibility of forgiveness. Not today, maybe not for generations, but the possibility. 20 years had changed the galaxy in ways no one had predicted. The Dominion still existed, but it was not the same civilization that had destroyed New Geneva. Young Dominion citizens now made pilgrimages to this dead world. They stood among the monuments and learned what their ancestors had done. They committed themselves to never repeating those mistakes. The government had been completely built around principles of accountability. Every leader who made decisions about war or peace was required to spend time in singer-mediated, empathic connection with victims of past conflicts. They had to understand the weight of their choices before they could make them. It was not a perfect system. Nothing was perfect. But it was better than what had come before. The Kethvari Hive Queen had formally adopted a human concept into her species' genetic memory. The concept was called empathy. For millions of years, the Kethvari had seen other beings as either useful or obstacles. Now they were learning to see them as people. The Varen had requested human teachers to help them understand what they called the warrior's restraint. The idea that true strength meant knowing when not to fight was revolutionary to a species that had based their entire culture on dominance. The Threki had abolished their predatory economic practices. They discovered that fair trade actually produced more wealth than exploitation. Because other species wanted to work with partners they could trust, and humanity remained what they had always been: peaceful neighbors, fair traders, quiet builders of civilization. They did not want an empire. They did not want worship. They just wanted to live their lives and raise their families and contribute to a galaxy that was a little better than the one they had found. But now everyone understood the truth behind that peaceful exterior. Every time a human diplomat smiled and suggested negotiation, the galaxy remembered the Seventh Fleet. Every time a human merchant accepted an unfair deal without complaint, the galaxy wondered what they were planning. Every time a human leader chose patience over action, the galaxy held its breath, because they had learned the lesson of New Geneva. The humans had never been weak. They had never been foolish. They had never been easy targets who did not know how to fight back. They had simply believed that peace was worth choosing, worth fighting for, worth 3 centuries of patience and insults and unfair treatment. And when peace finally collapsed, when they were pushed past the point of any reasonable tolerance, they did not answer with mindless destruction. They answered with something far more terrifying consequences. The lead singer of Michelle composed a harmonic sequence that would be taught to young singers for millions of years to come. It was their species' way of recording the most important lessons of history. The sequence translated roughly as follows. In the 12 millionth year of our observation, we finally encountered a species worthy of the stars. They did not conquer because they could not. They did not make peace because they were weak. They chose their path with full knowledge of all the alternatives. And when the universe tested them with fire and death and the murder of millions, they answered not with more fire, but with something the galaxy had never seen. They answered with hope. Hope that even the worst crimes can be faced honestly. Hope that even the cruelest enemies can be given the chance to change. Hope that strength can be used for something better than destruction. The sequence ended with a single pure note that rang through crystal halls across Mashal Prime. Remember the humans? They showed us what civilization could become. Ambassador Chen Wei stood among the monuments of New Geneva as the sun set on the dead world. 43 million names surrounded her. 43 million lives that had ended too soon. 43 million reasons why she sometimes wondered if humanity's answer had been right. But then she thought about the young Dominion citizens who came here to learn. She thought about the ancient enemies who had made peace with human help. She thought about a galaxy that was slowly, painfully, learning to be better. We did not forget you, she whispered to the monuments. And because of you, the galaxy will never be able to forget either. Your deaths meant something. They changed everything. And we will keep building the future you deserved until the stars themselves grow cold. She stood there until night fell over New Geneva. Then she returned to her ship and went back to work. There was still so much to do.